in studio with the Admiral, Bill Stubblefield. Billy, good morning to you, sir.
Good to be here.
And New York Times bestselling author John Simon Legree Gilstrap. Good morning, John.
Okay, we'll call it a good morning.
Attorney at Law Joseph Joey Toots Ferretti.
Good morning.
Joe, you will not be on the Friday show tomorrow.
I will not. I have work to do tomorrow.
Wow.
It's scheduling that I cannot avoid.
You know, there's an implication in that statement that we have nothing better to do than to be here.
That's not an implication. It's pretty much a signed statement.
That's
yeah. That's more than implied. Yeah.
I hate the Mr. Friday show, but it's unfortunately tomorrow I have to do a deposition. So
Also in studio, Delegate John Hardy. Mr. Hardy,
Good morning. Good morning. Thanks for having me here this morning.
thank you for coming in.
I let the record show. I showed up here with 50 munchkins. So
That's right.
There's not that many now.
yeah,
No.
down to 40.
Yeah, no, I think we're down to like maybe 20. They got hit pretty hard before we went on. So
Hey, Rob, this being the Christmas season.
It is.
Don't you have a sense of sharing,
I do.
sense of feeling good for your fellow man and wanting to make sure everybody leads a very comfortable life?
You and I stepped up big time this morning,
We
Bill.
did.
We made somebody's Christmas good.
There's something behind what I'm suggesting. Would you take the lead, my friend?
Well, Mr. Mr. Gilstrap came into the studio this morning and said that somebody had written him an email saying, "My husband is a big fan of your books. In fact, you're his favorite fictional author," which means he's not really here right now, by the way. Would you please autograph a book and send it to him?
Yeah.
Thank you. Love, your favorite fan.
And probably was implied to not have very much money. And
I would
looking
think.
looking hard for appropriate gift for a husband who was probably housebound and could not get out.
If I remember, the email was teardrops on the email.
That's right.
Tiny Tim.
Electronic.
What was John's immediate response for?
John's response was, "You didn't send any money, no book."
You know, that's exactly right.
So Bill and I said, "Well, how much does the book cost?" And John said $10. So Bill chipped in $5. I chipped in $5. Ferretti offered to pay for the postage and handling.
But did not pay. Did not come through on it, just saying.
Gilstrap put the money in his wallet and then sent back a quick email that said, "Denied. Request denied."
That's not okay. Here's the email.
That's how I remember it, Bill. Is that how you recall?
I do too.
Could
yeah.
you send my husband Dan a signed copy of your latest book for Christmas? You are his favorite fictional author, as opposed to a real one. You are his favorite fictional author. I know it would be a fantastic gift for him, and he'd never be expecting it. Well, okay.
It's because I'm not going to pay for it.
Yeah,
So why
I'm
would you
not
expect
going
it?
to send.
So normally-
unless there's money here, I'm not going to pay attention.
So my counter that I proposed to my colleagues here was I would propose that she buy the book and that I will send him a Christmas card, a handwritten note that says, "I hope you enjoy this gift from your wife," you know? But that was totally rejected.
To which Bill countered, "Come on, John, how much money do you need?
Yeah.
Can't you send the guy a free book?"
And this is Christmas after all. Let's do some sharing. Let's love our fellow man.
pretty brutal in here this morning.
John, you know, I have a friend who would really like to have an addition built on his house. It would be a great surprise, not expecting. Would you mind doing that for him? And Joe, some free legal advice for my next door
Yes,
neighbor.
Joe, could you give $10 of free legal advice, and John, could you donate $10 of labor?
Yeah, I'm sure I could. Do it.
Okay, see
Yeah.
That's it. She didn't ask for a truckload of free books. She asked for one book.
And after all, you are his favorite
Fictional author.
Are we done here?
Now we got 49 more minutes. Yeah.
And we have a lot of donuts.
We got a lot of
That's
donuts
true.
to get through. A lot
That's
of donuts.
true.
Thanks to Delegate John Hardy, who not only has helped provide legislation for free radon test kits from the Berkeley County Health Department, but now free donut holes.
Yeah, you talk about that a lot. I'd like to touch on that just for a second. So, just so everyone knows, Berkeley County was always received a grant through an agency through the state where we got the funding for the radon test kits, and for some odd reason, in someone's infinite wisdom, they decided to make those grants a competitive grant.
Stupid. Were you competing for your life?
Right. Well, they were competitive from county to county. And for some reason, there was counties that was receiving radon test kit money that didn't have any radon. I mean, so the Eastern Panhandle.
That's how they know.
Right. Well, the Eastern Panhandle is really the only area that has high levels of radon in West Virginia. The other parts of West Virginia has coal and natural gas and those other type of commodities. And we have radon. So I went in and was able to work with a few different agencies and was able to get that grant restored for Berkeley County and for our health department so we could get those radon test kits provided. So,
well, I didn't know that was the explanation for it, John. Now that I hear about it, that's just the dumbest thing ever.
I have no idea why it was changed to a competitive grant process, and I don't even believe that Berkeley County was even aware that the criteria for receiving the grant had changed and lost the grant that they'd always received year after year because Berkeley County has high levels of radon.
What is a competitive grant? We need it more than you do?
Yeah, I'm sure there was probably a writing process. There was something that was probably a grant writer wrote an application for the grant, and it was submitted, and then it was divvied out that way. So
we can argue in this case some ludicrous for that, but this is one of the things we should be doing to be monitoring our output of dollars, and writing a grant is fairly a simple thing to do as opposed to just blanket distribution.
Well, I think that's one of the things that the Berkeley County Commission has done a really good job on. They have a full-time grant writing person because there is so much, grants out there from the federal government.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, the states have become the federal government has become the pimp to the states. I mean, the federal government collects all the money, and then they, if the state wants it, then you write grant proposals, and they usually will send you the money back with some type of attachment. That's typically how things have worked through the education system and through so many other systems, and that's how we have these kind of overreaches sometimes, because if you go after the money, then there's usually some type of something attached to that you must perform to receive that money.
John, in the previous half hour, we're talking about litter control and pickup, and the subject of a bottle bill came up, which would be a taxation on each bottle.
To be refunded when you turn the bottle in.
To be refunded when they turn the bottle in. Several states have this. They have it up north of us and to the west of us, so several states have it. We proposed this a few years or so ago with the legislators. There was a tremendous pushback by the distributors. Is the climate right that it could be proposed again to our legislators of something that would address this massive amount of litter?
I think that's a hard sell in a panhandle area of a state. I've spent quite a bit of time in Maine and some other states that have those. They seem to be pretty popular in New England.
And Oregon and Washington.
Yeah, and those are larger states that have, maybe it's a little harder to go across the border to buy a 6-pack of beer or buy your sodas, and I think that's a tough piece of legislation to try to turn on in the Eastern Panhandle, where you can so easily just drive to Virginia or Maryland or Pennsylvania to buy, whatever your drinks are. And I know that that is a deterrent for litter because people will return their bottles and their cans, and maybe it's like 3 cents a can, or it's usually printed right on top of
it does. Of 3 cents, 5 cents, 10 cents.
Yeah, and I know that's popular in some states. I just don't think that's an easy sell in the Panhandle, where it's so easily to just it would very much put our distributors and our small mom and pop type stores, would definitely put them at a disadvantage, and I don't think that would see any movement in that in the legislature. I
think the issue is we're such a disposable society right now. I mean, nobody drinks water out of a glass bottle anymore, right? Everybody goes and you buy the plastic, and then the plastic becomes a disposable, and you put it, and it's so light, even if you try to dispose of it properly, a breeze comes through and it gets blown out and down the road. There are things we could do to make it easier to have a water bottle that is refilled, in public places that we see in other communities. But the recycling value of glass, I think, has collapsed, and we just hear as they were on their way out, the last glass recycler has just gone bankrupt. So
yeah, recycling is one of those things that started off with a big bang, and really people saw the value in it, and those markets have just completely collapsed. I mean, especially here in the U.S. Now there'll be maybe some other countries that are maybe not as economically stable as we are, but in the U.S. that market has completely collapsed from glass, plastic, and the different types of plastics. It's just It's really it's hard. It's really hard for the recyclers to be able to make any money off that. It's going to be something that probably a municipality, a state, or someone, or the federal government is going to have to put an influx of money into to be able to keep that whole.
And so much of the recycling market, I used to work for a trade association that represented scrap recyclers, and so much of that market is driven by China and India, and China has stopped buying. It used to be the market for paper, for example, and they've just stopped buying for any number of reasons. And even there, it's difficult. If food has touched paper, it's not recyclable. So it's a complicated series of regulations.
I do think there's still a good market for metals, ferrous metals,
Very
non-ferrous,
good market,
very
yes.
good market for that. I mean, you see CEC, the company that's going to be moving here in the Eastern Panhandle, making rebar. A lot of that is going to be recycled metals. The new company that we worked with that's going to be down in Mason County, Nucor Steel, they use a lot of recycled metal. So I think there's still a strong market for that. But in the plastics and glass industry, I think that's went by the wayside.
John, you're running for county commission. This will be your last year as a delegate, as a member of the House of Delegates. You're the vice chair of finance. But after this year is over, your intention is to hopefully be elected to the county commission. The county commission is currently dealing with quite a situation with Sheriff Harmon's resignation. They'll need to appoint a new sheriff at some point along the way. Just your thoughts if you were a commissioner and you're watching all this kind of unfold in front of you. I'm sure you know Nate, and I'm sure you have a great relationship with him, like most of the people that we know do. Your thoughts on trying to separate the professional from the personal in that scenario?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. I pondered that a little bit last night. The first thing I did, I'm on the Berkeley County Executive Committee, and the first thing I did was I went in and did a little research to see exactly how a new sheriff would be seated. Obviously, the county needs to have someone that is in charge of our law enforcement, and the county needs a sheriff, regardless of what's going on with our current sheriff right now. He's announced his resignation, and we need to fill that position. So I wasn't sure if it was going to be something that would be a list of names will be given to the executive committee, or if the county council handles that. And I did some research last night, and the county council does handle, or the county commission, does handle that. They will handle the appointment of a new sheriff, and they can do a part-time. They can do someone for just a short period until they kind of get their feet from underneath of them, or they can
30 days.
Right, exactly. So that will be handled by the county commission. I think both Berkeley and Jefferson County have had some challenges lately with elected officials, and that's been very unfortunate. First I'd like to lead off by saying that I am a friend of Nate Harmon. I think that Nate Harmon has done a wonderful job with the Sheriff's Department. He has brought a sense of camaraderie to that department, really built a strong group over there. He's been very active in the community, really putting himself in the community and trying to be as involved as possible. It does seem that he maybe made a misstep, and I don't know all the details, and I'm not here to prosecute him or crucify him. But it does seem that he's made a misstep, and he's made amends for that. He is resigning his position as a sheriff, and is a job that I know that he deeply, deeply loves, and he's deeply committed to. So that right there tells you, I'm sure what a painful decision that was for him. Obviously, there's more to come, and more will come out. I think the county commission took the advice, or took at least the findings that our prosecuting attorney have. We have this county has a very good prosecuting attorney. She does a wonderful job, and she's very committed to the job. And I think she went to the county commission with the information that she had. I think the county commission was able to put those personal feelings aside, which you have to do as an elected official. Just as you see as the Jefferson County commissioners, there are lots of things that happen that you do not agree with when you're an elected official. But you have to be able to take that step above in the professionalism. You have to have that professional side of yourself to say, this person is a friend, or this person is a colleague. I have a personal relationship with this person, or a friendly relationship with this person. But there's a clear cut that you have to be willing to make. And I believe that our current county commissioners made that, and I would have no problem making those type decisions. I've made those type decisions. I've made very tough decisions to vote against legislation in the legislature that has been brought forth by colleagues and friends. And Rob has pointed out, me and Chuck Horst have been on different sides of legislation. We're roommates. We're great friends. I talk to Chuck probably once a week. We're buddies, and but we don't see eye to eye, and there's a professionalism there that we just are able to decipher.
Joe?
Yeah, it's a very good point, and one that we just touched on briefly in the first segment this morning, was that it's accountability. And I think people here locally with the elected officials who have acted, both in Jefferson County and in Berkeley County, and I'm talking specifically about the prosecuting attorneys, and in Berkeley County, the county commission, they've acted in a way to ensure that we have proper representation at all levels of county government. And I think people should take solace in that. It is no small feat to go before a county commission or go before the courts and file a removal petition, because this is an elected official that the people of this county elected to fill that role. And as an officer of the court, or as in this case a county commissioner, you don't take the role lightly. And I'm glad you spoke to that, John, because I think the silver lining in all this is that we have local officials who have standards and will enforce them. And that's all we can ask. And some people are going to pay the price for their, as you said, missteps, and certainly Nate is doing that here. But I take great solace in the fact that we have county elected officials who are willing to take that on, those kind of responsibilities, and act on them. And we don't always. It's not always the case.
If you look at that, in the last couple of weeks, it's been an interesting box that they've been put in. Matt Harvey in Jefferson County and Katie Wilkes Delegate in Berkeley County.
Sure.
And both had to make tough decisions and made them.
And also Judge Cohey in Berkeley County / Jefferson County. In case of Judge Cohey and Matt Harvey, I'm understanding there's an effort to try to have someone to primary them, which is no great surprise because they did the job they thought they should do. And as we talked about the other day, some folks put personal relationships or politics above the law, above what these folks did.
When you say primary them, who are you talking about?
I'm talking about Matt Harvey in Jefferson County. He's a prosecuting attorney.
So there's a movement afoot to have him challenged.
I don't know if it's any more than Facebook or not.
Yeah.
It may not be, but we still have another month and a half before someone can file. But there is some talk on Facebook that they should be primary, which I find to be very disappointing.
Well, Jefferson County politics is not for the faint of heart, especially as a Republican in Jefferson County. I mean, it can be a tough road to hoe down there, and I've seen it firsthand. So it's not for the faint of heart down there.
And it's so in Jefferson County, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, was truly a purple county. Now it is still, it's very extreme. It's moved over to the Republican side, but I think it's moved over much to the more extreme Republican side than, say, what Berkeley County has.
I don't know if this is a harbinger of anything or not, but night before last, I was in D.C. attending a group. It's called the Washington Authors Dinner. It happens twice a year in Georgetown. And this is, I assure you, I'm the only West Virginian in this crowd of 80 or 90 people. And I had 3 different people come up to me and say, what is going on in your state with everybody being forced out of office or refusing to show up for work or whatever? So it's resonating there for what's happening here. And there was no, I'm not an insider on this. But it's not reflecting well on our area when perceived outside. So whatever that, for good or ill, that's out there. And I think we need to be aware that the shenanigans, particularly, I don't put Nate's situation in the shenanigans, but the stuff that's been happening in Jefferson County with the commissioners, that is really resonating as a laugh line. And I think that's something that the Eastern Panhandlers need to be aware of, and maybe have some kind of a marketing push to package it as, hey, look, the system's working.
And another aspect of that is the amount of national publicity West Virginia, especially West Virginia University, is having with the way that they've handled their budget crunch. There's a article in Atlantic this past week that was very, very critical of West Virginia University.
Right,
So,
but let's not get confused and be all gloom and doom here. There's a lot of good things that's happening in West Virginia, and there's a lot of good things that are being spoke about for West Virginia. Obviously, the moving of our economics, the reworking of our court systems. The Republicans that took over control of the legislature some 9-10 years ago really worked very hard on that economic, changing the economic base of West Virginia, bringing lots of new businesses, helping to build our established businesses here, reworking our tax code, reworking our courts, tort reform. My friend to my left here is...
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
But tort reform and lots of other things. So there's lots of good things happening in the state.
But good news needs to be shouted a lot louder.
It sure
than
does,
bad
because
news.
the negative news is always what stands out.
Right.
Just for example, me and my wife, we love to watch Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy in our house, and we typically watch the world news, the 30-minute world news on before. I told my wife, I was like, this is the saddest 30 minutes you ever want to listen to. It's always the negativity that comes out the loudest. But there is lots of good things happening in the state of West Virginia, and I believe that the legislature has worked very hard in the last 10 years to move the state forward economically and try to change some of those abysmal results that we had received for so many years. So, and I hope that continues. I feel like there's a change happening in the legislature, and I hope it's just a feeling and not that it goes through.
Speaking of being primaried, John, we're about to go into a commercial break here, and that is the Craig Blair election. That's going to be interesting in the primary coming up. Your thoughts about Craig Blair's leadership in the Senate, pro or con?
I could not be a bigger supporter of Craig Blair. Craig Blair has been a friend of mine for 30 years. I've worked with him in the legislature on many different projects. And the thing about being the Senate president is you have to represent everyone, and you have to be a loud champion for everyone. And sometimes that gets lost in your home area. But I would urge everyone to understand that Craig works in the back channel so much, helping us other legislators be able to be successful in the things that we do. Obviously, there's legislation that I have passed that has helped the Eastern Panhandle, that has brought millions of dollars back to the Eastern Panhandle. Those pieces of legislation would not work if I did not have Senate Blair championing those legislation in the Senate. Sometimes working colleagues on the Senate side that are maybe not as in favor of that, as we would like them to be. So I would urge everyone to understand that the Senate President job is not an easy job. It's a job that requires the Senate President to speak loudly for all parts of West Virginia. But Senator Blair has been a champion for the Eastern Panhandle. He has represented us for 20-some years, almost 20 years in the legislature. The thing about Craig is you may not agree with him and you may not like what he has to say, but he will say exactly how he feels and exactly how he sees it. He's very transparent. He's a hard worker. He spends a lot of time in Charleston. And I am certainly hopeful that he retains his position in the Senate, and seems like he is fighting very hard to retain that.
We need to do a break here. We'll be right back with more. Delegate John Hardy stays with us, and we'll go up until about 9:50 with John here this morning. This segment of the program brought to you by Parsons Ford of Martinsburg. We became number one by making you number one first at Parsons.
Finally, West Virginia is moving in the right direction. As your West Virginia Senate President, Craig Blair has passed the most conservative legislative agenda in the nation. He has fought for our values like banning elective abortions, protecting our Second Amendment rights, and prevented boys from playing in girls' sports. Senator Craig Blair championed the largest tax cut in the history of our state. Craig Blair, a strong conservative leader. Promises made, promises kept. This election, vote for Republican Craig Blair for State Senate. Paid for by the Committee to Re-elect Craig Blair.
The future doesn't wait. Why should you? Blue Ridge Community and Technical College offers over 60 degree and certificate programs in education, IT, culinary arts, engineering, and so much more. Small class sizes, flexible schedules with evening and online classes, affordable tuition, plus financial aid is available to those who qualify. Now you can go to college. Visit us online at blueridgectc.edu. That's blueridgectc.edu. Stop waiting and enroll today.
The W.B. Rockefeller Neuroscience Institute Martinsburg clinics will be moving to a new location beginning January 9th. Our RNI team is moving to a larger custom design suite on the 3rd floor of the Spring Mills Medical Office Building at 61 Campus Drive. Teams that will be moving include physical medicine and rehabilitation, neurosurgery, and neurology. We look forward to welcoming new patients at our new location on January 9th. For more info, call 304-596-5038.
Ollie's VIP Northside at 36 Veronica Drive, Martinsburg is your favorite place to have a great meal, a good time, and to catch all the games. Join us Mondays for 75-cent wings and follow your favorite team from the bar on our 17 TVs located all throughout the bar or from the outdoor fire pit. Ollie's has great food and drink menus and features specials for every day of the week, including Saturdays when you can get a 16-ounce ribeye steak grilled the way you want it for just $24.95. That's Ollie's VIP Northside at 36 Veronica Drive, Martinsburg. We'll see you for the game.
After a car accident, what do you get when you call Mansion Ferretti?
You get more experience from a local law firm with over 115 years of combined service.
More respect from a team who treats clients like their own family.
And more fight, because we want you to get every dollar you deserve.
Experience, respect, results. If you've been injured, that's what you want in your lawyer.
And that's what you'll get when you call us. Car accident? Get more with Mansion Ferretti. 304-264-8505.
With 4 new car dealerships and 4 used car dealerships in 3 states, Parsons is the largest used car and fastest growing new car dealer in the tri-state area. Take Parsons Ford with huge savings on hundreds of new Fords, financing from 0%, Parsons' goal of financing for all, and Parsons' famous above-market trade-in allowances that help make Parsons #1 for used cars too. See why so many won't buy anywhere but Parsons Ford in Martinsburg. We became #1 by making you #1 first. Parsons.
We are brought to you in part by Parsons Ford of Martinsburg, also by Craig Blair for State Senate, the Eastern Panhandle's first and only Lieutenant Governor and Senate President, Craig Blair, creating jobs, making West Virginia great again. It's Craig Blair for State Senate. This segment of our program is populated by a
with 4 new car dealerships and 4 used car dealerships
it's a Friday show. Bill Stubblefield, John Gilstrap, Joe Ferretti, Delegate John Hardy is here as well.
I had to cancel a dentist appointment to be here. So.
Oh, what a shame.
Yeah, no. It broke my heart. I canceled my dentist appointment so I could eat donuts with you guys.
That kind of goes against the whole dentist thing, doesn't it? Right. John, interim sessions begin this Sunday. Where will you folks be and what's on the agenda?
So we will be back in Charleston. We will actually probably be in the newly renovated House Chamber. The House Chamber has been closed for the last 4 or 5 months. Went through some pretty substantial renovations that it desperately needed. So we will be back in our House Chamber. We'll be back in Charleston. I will be attending the Joint Committee on Finance. We'll also be attending the Health Committee, and also I have one other interim committee, Workforce Development. So those are my interim committees, and I also will be checking on all my legislation. I have a attorney that works in Charleston and in our bill drafting that does all my bill drafting for me, and he's been emailing me some of the stuff, and I have a sit down with him. We're going to go through all the legislation that we're working on and making sure we're getting that all tidied up and ready to be introduced. And it's all starting. I have a meeting today at noon with the Berkeley County Commission. I have a meeting with someone about some school policies. I mean, there's just a lot of things that are starting to happen because we're getting close to the legislative session.
What issues do you have? What issues will the county commission be raising, John?
I'm sure the county commission will talk about 1% sales tax, which they are, very trying to push. I mean, that's something they've been working on. I'm not exactly sure what all else they'll be working on. I'm working on some legislation that's going to put some one-time funding into our courthouse improvement fund. Try to put maybe $30 or $40 million into the courthouse fund, and it's at the state level, and then use that for grants We have counties that are growing their courts. So in other words, Jefferson County is getting a new circuit and another magistrate. Berkeley County is going to get a total of 3 magistrates. We're probably going to end up with another circuit judge here soon.
3 additional magistrates.
Yes.
Yeah,
You got Kanawha County, whose court system is growing. Mon County. As you know, the county commission is responsible for providing the courtroom space. So basically, that's an unfunded mandate from the state. So just looking for some one-time money to go into that, and also want the local counties to have buy-in. So some type of matching grants. I don't know if it'll be 50-50, 70-30, something. But just some money available for the counties commissions to be able to grow their courts.
It's needed.
It's very much needed. Yeah. I've also got, you guys know, our homestead exemption is stuck at $20,000. It's been there forever. It takes a constitutional amendment to move it. Our longtime residents here in Berkeley County that are on homestead exemption, with the skyrocketing prices of the Eastern Panhandle and home prices and real property taxes, I'm working on trying to kind of realign that the tax credit that's available for that. So basically, if you're a senior and your income versus the real property taxes that you pay on your house reaches a certain formula that matches a certain rate for the poverty rate, then you can receive a tax credit from the state. So what I'm trying to do is lower the standard and raise the tax credit. So to try to help our seniors who are on fixed income that's living in Berkeley County and other counties that are growing.
You mentioned constitutional amendment. Was a lesson learned with the last series of constitutional amendments being too many on the docket and having one that was very negative that pulled all the others down?
Yeah, I think there was too many, and I think if you voted no on one, you voted no on all of them. The governor coming out against them didn't really help. So I think we've probably learned our lesson. I think if you're going to do a constitutional amendment, I think probably no more than 2 on the ballot. And those constitutional amendments are written by very smart people, but that doesn't mean they're always written.
You're going to say as the lawyers.
Well, and
everybody presumes when he says smart people.
But they're people that are wordsmiths and people that understand things need to be worded a certain way, but it doesn't mean that the lay person is always going to understand exactly what that piece of legislation
I consider myself a wordsmith, and I got lost.
Yeah, they were quite wordy.
Yeah, they were indeed.
Yeah.
So, as a future commissioner or potential commissioner, where are you on the 1% sales tax?
I am not for it. I'm not for it, and I'll tell you, the legislature. I know there's going to be some movement for it this year in the legislature by some local delegates, but I don't think there's going to be any movement on it, and I'll tell you why. Because we are working towards taking our personal income tax to 0. We are at about 21.5% or 20. It's some weird number, 22.25%. We're probably going to hit the triggers to be able to grow that another 10%. I feel, from what I've learned in the finance committee, that to get to 40 or 50% is probably not going to be too hard. I think that we're going to be able to get our personal income tax cut to 40, 50%,
which would bring it to what?
Which would bring it to
the top bracket. It would be
it's tiers. It's 6.5. Yeah, I can't remember exactly how they're tiered.
Sorry. You mentioned personal property being brought to 0.
No. Personal income.
Okay,
personal
I misunderstood.
Income. I'm sorry. Personal income tax being brought to 0, and I think that 1% sales tax would be the backstop. I think once you get to 60 or 70%, if the state does not see the growth that we need to see substantial growth, and I hope and pray that we do. I hope that the state grows, that our coffers grow, that our businesses are here and they're doing well, that our citizens are doing well, and we sustain that rate of growth. But I do believe the 1% or 2% sales tax increase would be the backstop to do that. And I've said on this show many, many times that I am a fan of consumer-based taxes for a multitude of reasons. But I don't think the timing is right for that right now, and I don't think the counties will get that.
John, we talked to our folks on our Facebook crowd, and of course many people here in the studio often advocate for term limits with our elected officials. But there's a flip side of the coin to that. And I don't think a couple of weeks goes by without us seeing the governor having to appoint somebody to fill a role in the legislature, whether it's in the House or the Senate, or somebody announcing that they're leaving the House or the Senate. Talk a little bit about the effects of that. What's the other side of the coin here on people leaving the legislature who have built up experience and bring a certain amount of a knowledge base to the job. I think you're getting the sense that we're going to lose some good people here who have contributed in the past.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting in 2025 what the legislature is going to look like. There's a lot of institutional knowledge that's going to be leaving the legislature in 25 that some are seeking other seats, and some are just, have reached the pinnacle of what they want to do. The House is a very tough place to work. It is a wonderful process. The people, I respect all the people that's there. It's a tough process. You have 100, type A personalities that always think they're the smartest person in the room, and sometimes we can take a really good idea and really grind it into sausage. There seems to be a bit of a trend, a little bit of a different trend in the House of the people that are being elected, and I think there's a lot of institutional knowledge that's leaving. You'll see that the Majority Leader Eric Householder is leaving, who was a longtime finance chairman. You have Paul Espinosa, who's running for the Senate, who knows more about the educational funding and the formulas than anybody I know, who has been the Speaker pro tem. He's leaving and running for the Senate. You have Amy Summers, who's the chair of Health and was the Majority Leader. She's leaving. You have
to go where? Private practice, or
she's just spent her time in the legislature. She's going home.
She's not going to the Senate.
No. Okay. She has a grandchild that she spent a lot of time with. You have Steve Westfall, who has handled a lot of our insurance stuff, who is an insurance agent in the House side. We've lost Erica Storch from the Northern Panhandle, who did a lot of our stuff for our retirements, the TERS, PERS, JERS, all those different retirements. She understands that better than probably anybody else in the House. So there's going to be a lot, and there's probably 25 people that's leaving, and that's just to touch on a few. So I do believe that there's a lot of institutional knowledge that's going to be leaving the House, and obviously there'll be, it's next man up, next person up. Someone will have to step up and take those positions, but I think that it's going to be challenging to see how the new face of the House in 25. I'm interested. As my wife tells me, don't worry too much, Hardy. The legislature will be fine, just fine without you, and it's done well many years before you got there. So, but it's going to be interesting to see the new face.
As much as critical as it is with the turnover of the members, what about the staff?
The staff? No, we have long-time staff.
So
the
a lot of the institution memory will be preserved via the staff.
It would be through the staff, but the staff is there to work for the legislature, and they are directive. So they don't give you a lot of input unless you ask. I mean, they do not put a lot of their thought processes into how they think the process should work, or but they will give you answers to what you ask. So,
but what you're describing is with this turnover is I see a potential bigger role for somebody like Mike Hornby. But the question is he up to it?
He's definitely up to it. Yeah, I think that Mike.
Joe trying to pose that as a serious question. Right. Trying to keep a straight face.
It's going to be interesting to see people like Mike Hornby and Mike Height, who are great legislators who work very hard. Mike Hornby's strongest suit is everybody likes him. He can build a relationship with anybody. He's a very friendly guy. He has a lot of friends down there. Mike Height his personality is a lot like mine. He's a bit of a bulldog.
Badger.
Kind of puts his head down, and he's not afraid to hurt someone's feelings, and in the right way. I mean, I'm not going to be rude to someone, but I'm going to say exactly what I need to say and how I feel about something. And Mike Height does that. We have other legislators in the area, that do good work, and it's just going to be interesting to see how it changes.
I'm concerned, and tell me if it's a legitimate concern, that with the Republican supermajorities, I sense that we're drifting farther and farther to the right, and that's going to trigger a revolt for the moderate right to move to the other side of the aisle. Do you see that as a growing danger?
As for myself, I know, because I'm a Republican and I will always be a Republican. I don't care how screwed up the party gets. I'll always be a Republican.
Okay.
I will always be a Republican.
John, what do you mean gets?
But I will tell you, as I was talking to my good friend Joe here earlier today off air, I feel like we're in kind of the second wave of the legislature. I think that first wave of the legislatures, the Republicans that took over, was more of an economic based, a business based, business friendly, wanting to move the state forward type. I think
Chamber of Commerce,
a Chamber of Commerce, a Reagan type Republican, Chamber of Commerce type Republican. That's all how I've always considered myself as a unapologetic, free capitalist, free market capitalist. I think that there's a second wave of movement of Republicans into the legislature that are more of the populist type Republicans that are very concerned with social issues, maybe further socially right than what Republicans like myself.
And those are the divisive issues.
Yeah, those are the divisive. Well, it's the center is the most dangerous place to live. I mean, you don't believe me? Ask Joe Manchin. But the center is the most dangerous place to live. If you're far left, you're protected, and if you're far right, you're protected. But if you're somewhere in the middle, then you're vulnerable. I've been attacked many times for things that are good, strong Republican strategies that we've worked on for years, but the far right has. And I don't want to say the far right, but I guess you would compromise.
Right of you is pretty far right.
Right of me, yeah, for sure. I went to Charleston as a screaming conservative, and the parties went past me 200 miles an hour. So, and that's not the reason I'm leaving. The reason I'm leaving is you can go back and listen to my very early interviews. I planned on being there around 6 years. I said that very early on. And I accomplished a lot of things that I wanted to accomplish, and I have lots of things here in the Eastern Panhandle that I want to accomplish. I think the next 6 to 10 years in Berkeley County are pivotal. There's going to be a lot of very important decisions made in this county for the future of this county to deal with infrastructure and water and sewer and internet, how to control the growth, how do we healthily be able to control the growth in this county. We don't have zoning. It's been spoken on zoning has been pushed back very hard. The people of Berkeley County do not want zoning, and that's fine. That's been put out to a referendum. But we will have to work somehow in the commission to be able to control some of our growth. We need to work on this unequitable stormwater management fee that we have. I have a very detailed plan for that I want to try to start to implement if I'm elected, and trying to make that more equitable for people that have plenty of pervious surfaces on their property.
John, you need to get in touch with Frederick County, Maryland about that, because they had to deal with the same thing, and how they dealt with it, I don't know how they pulled this off. But when I get my real estate tax bill, there is a 1 cent charge for dealing with impervious water.
The rain tax.
Yeah, it is 1 cent, and I know the tax here is much higher than that.
Well, there's plenty of technology out there to help us with this. We have these advanced GIS systems that can go in and can help the county come up with a plan that is equitable to say that John Hardy and his 5 acres should not be paying the same amount as Walmart and their hundreds of thousands of square foot of impervious surfaces. So, and I think the county commission is ripe for that. I think they want to do that. I think they, I'm not speaking out of turn.
Call Frederick County, find out how you can only charge a penny for it. They pulled it off.
Yeah. Now the county commission is going to have some changes as well. 2 seats are going to be up for re-election or for election. It's going to be Jim Barnhart, and H.D. Boyd's also is up for re-election. I know Jim's not going to run again, and you're planning to run for his district. H.D., I don't know if he's going to run or not.
Yeah, so H.D. sits in the Adam Stevens district, and Jim Barnhart sits in the Tuscarora district. I will be running for the Tuscarora district, but remember, it is a county-wide race. Yeah. So you must run in the district that you live in, and that is designed that way for equal distribution of representation. So there's 6 magisterial districts. There's 5 county commissioners. I will be running for the Tuscarora district. H.D. Boyd is in the Adam Stevens, and then the Potomac district is open. There's no one in that, and someone is eligible to run in that district. Yeah. But understand, it is a county-wide election.
Mr. Hardy, good to see you again.
Thank you all very much for the opportunity. I hope you enjoyed the donuts.
Enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you for the donut holes. And make sure you get to the dentist at some point along the way.
Thank you.
You don't want plaque buildup.
No.
Right?